This is Tom Mauriello, creator of the C.S.I. Checklist app, and this is Check It Off. Okay, let's go to checklist number 2, crime scene procedures. Now remember, the C.S.I. Checklist app is there to help you not forget to do any steps. It's not that you don't have the knowledge and the training, it's to ensure consistency and to ensure that you don't miss anything. So let's look at evidence collection, which is subsection 2D. Let's check off the first one, prevent destruction or contamination. Throughout the entire process at the crime scene, whether you're a uniform officer, evidence technician, investigator, firefighter, EMT, whoever you are, always consider the destruction and contamination of evidence and do anything you can to ensure that doesn't happen. I know you all have your own individual responsibilities, but in the back of your mind, always be considering that what you're doing and where you're doing it ultimately can become a crime scene and needs to be properly protected. Let's check off determine order of collection. You've got a crime scene, you've got evidence, now it's time to collect it. Who's going to collect it? Who's going to document it? You need to have a plan and make sure that plan exists before you start. When in doubt, collect it. When you're looking for evidence at the crime scene and you're not sure whether an item is or isn't evidence, don't question yourself, collect it. You can always give it back later on. You can't go back to the crime scene later on without having that evidence be questioned for its validity and reliability, etc. So collect it at the beginning. Some evidence you can't see with the naked eye. So you need to consider your crime scene and what might be there so you don't destroy it. For example, walking on a hard floor where there could be potential shoe prints there that you can't see with the naked eye. Later on, evidence technicians can use techniques to develop those latent prints. If you've stepped all over it, you've destroyed it. So think about that. I know there's a lot of things for you to do, but the more you think and consider the other responsibilities of everyone else, the better you'll work as a team and be successful. Next one, consider a systematic search pattern. There are various kinds of patterns to search. There's a zone search, there's a spiral search. You've learned about all these different things. Have a plan. How are you going to attack the crime scene and how are you going to be looking for evidence so you don't miss any part of the evidence? If you have a plan, a systematic plan, that will take care of that problem. Next one, concentrate on transient evidence. What's transient evidence? Any evidence that may be degraded or disappear through the passage of time. If your crime scene is outside and it's about to rain or it is raining, it could be destroying evidence that you need to capture right away. Photograph things right away if through the passage of time they're going to change for whatever reason it might be. So think about any evidence that we call transient evidence that needs to be taken care of first. Be aware of multiple crime scenes. How many locations do you have? Don't assume that there's only one crime scene. Is there a vehicle involved? Where is that vehicle? How close is it to the crime scene that you're aware of? Is there another location you need to go to? Consider multiple crime scenes because you need to be considering evidence in these various locations. So don't have tunnel vision, consider other things. Collect each item identified as evidence so you can document them properly. Make sure that every piece of evidence is properly documented. You've identified it, class characteristics or any individual characteristics that you can have. Make sure the numbering system is consistent throughout your documents. Mark and preserve the evidence. Make sure that you're marking it properly so later on when you're testifying in a court of law, you can say, yes, that's the evidence that I found during the time in question. There's my markings that I placed on it during the time in question. Make sure that you're using the proper containers to collect this evidence. I'm not going to get into that, but you need to ensure that you have the proper containers to preserve that evidence so you don't lose any of it. Establish the chain of custody. you need to ensure that you know where that evidence has been from the time it's identified to the time it's transported to the courtroom. Make sure your documents show that. Who had it? How long did they have it? Where did they transport it to? Who took it at that location? Make sure there's no gaps in times and dates. Make sure your documents are consistent that way. Next one, consider search and seizure issues. Certainly make sure that you have proper search warrants, and if you have to go back at another time, that you again have a search warrant that's valid, or permission of the owner if that will suffice at a particular jurisdiction. And the last one, obtain standards, reference, and control samples. If you are finding hairs and fibers, let's say at a crime scene, and you don't know who they belong to, they could be the suspects, they could be the victims, they could be somebody who lives in that location or has been there previously. If you have that kind of evidence, then you need to establish standards. So if you have a victim that's deceased, you need to tell the medical examiner that you need head samples and pubic samples and hairs from any other part of the body that you think are necessary. If it's a rape case, and the rape victim is undergoing a medical legal examination at the hospital, you need to communicate with either the forensic nurse or physician who's conducting the examination of the victim and say, while you're conducting your rape kit examination, make sure you collect standards, head hair samples, pubic samples, and any other samples. If they were wearing the clothes in question during the time in question, then you want to make sure that that evidence is collected for comparison of hairs or fibers later on. Want to learn more about the CSI Checklist app? Then go to our website listed here. Please share this with your colleagues. If you have any questions or comments, please contact us at info@csichecklist.com. Until next time, I'm Tom Mauriello. Be safe.